Hi, and welcome back to SDI's Coffee Break. And hopefully, if you've seen the last one in this series, we learned an awful lot about Susan's story. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Well, thank you. Hi, David.
Good. And did you learn an awful lot at all in the quickfire questions about yourself?
I'd
No.
like to ask some quick fire questions of you, David.
Ah, maybe in one of these soon. Yeah, maybe in one of these soon. Okay, so I think these set of videos are about how to work from home and how to manage teams working from home as well. And in your experience, because you've done this before, what things to think about. And when I say that in a training sort of, in your training sort of history as well. So this is, I think, for many, it's a new place. It's a new way of working, a new way of management to manage the challenges, and some really tumultuous change as well. Um, I think what we're doing right now is very quickly become the norm, isn't it? Very quickly become the norm for many people and teams who work remotely right now. You've written some really good ideas and tips about the challenges of not being present. And just a quick question, I think, if you look at this thing now as almost the webcam as the new, it's been around for years, but it's almost the new omnipresent third eye, isn't it? All of a sudden, it's the thing, that's it, that's the main sort of the conduit between people as well. How do you think, in your experience as a trainer, because you've done this virtually, you've done virtual training, all this stuff, how do you think this substitutes for face-to-face engagement?
So I know that I need to be here. I know that I'm hosting when I'm training or I'm leading a meeting. I know that I need to be present on the screen. Um, and I have become practiced. And actually, you're a really good example, David. I like watching you because you're very natural and good on the screen. But what I have come to see is that very few people are comfortable with being on a video.
Yeah.
It's a really strange feeling watching yourself. You're not used to that. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, brush your hair, you go to work. You don't really look at yourself all the time. And now here we are expected to watch ourselves on video. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. And some people will resist switching their videos on. That's what I found in training. Meetings a little less so. Meetings with 4, 6 people will switch their videos on because ooh, it's weird not to. But bigger meetings, no, people don't switch their videos on. And there's a big issue there about people becoming skillful, competent in being on video and not being bothered about it. And the way to do that is actually to practice. If you look at yourself in the mirror, this will be really weird, but if you looked at yourself in the mirror for 10 minutes, you would feel much happier by the time you came onto a video call.
That's interesting. So that I think you're right. I mean, thank you for that feedback. Actually, I've studied this for a while. This hasn't been something I picked up overnight. It's something I've studied for a while, and I think that's helped me in actually adapt to the environment, to adapt to the situation, to understand my surroundings, and how maybe to verbalize, and because I like theatre, Susan, and to maybe sort of over egg facial expressions, maybe, or make more gestures to hold a conversation, because that you miss that eye to eye thing, don't you? You miss the tells of body language when you're doing this. It's not as easily to sort of get a feel for the other person's thoughts or feelings at that one time, isn't it? So that's a good idea. That practice thing, yeah, that's a really good idea. I've not thought of that actually, but I think it's obvious, isn't it? It is quite obvious that. Now you also talk about the complexities of this, and you talk about the complexities of culture in doing this in teams. Also considerations about different types of people, different types.
Yeah.
People
So,
cope as well.
you probably don't think about this for yourself, but you're either introvert or extrovert, and somewhere in the middle. And an introvert will really feel very uncomfortable coming onto camera and coming on video and showing some of their private stuff, in their personal life. That's like introverts. They recharge by being in isolation. So an introvert is going to work from home and go like, oh, my favorite, because you like being in isolation. You like a little bit of maybe in the afternoon an introvert feels like, yeah, I'm ready for a conference call now, but an introvert is a bit uncomfortable, whereas the poor extrovert, and I feel more sorry for an extrovert in these times, the extrovert thrives on company, thrives on somebody else to talk to, seeing somebody, making a joke, having a bit of a
Yeah.
giggle,
Yeah.
being nearby, interrupting somebody and saying, like, oh, what do you think about this?
True.
An extrovert is going to really struggle. So those two, they are quite far, quite different, but everybody is going to fall into one of those sides. A little bit of an introvert, a lot of an extrovert, they're all going to fall into that. And you recognize yourselves. The key thing is, if you're an introvert, you thrive on isolation and you recharge your batteries on your own, so you're ready to come and meet others. Whereas the extroverts thrive on being with others.
And you're absolutely right, actually. And it's interesting how you sort of tailor or create an environment where both can be happy in this kind of thing. I've seen it myself. I've seen people who, in an office environment is one type of character, and then when this happens, they sort of change into someone else. And if you can't understand the tells of that, or maybe if you can't understand, why that's happening, that obviously impacts on the conversation you have. It obviously impacts on how you may think or feel about the other person you're speaking to as well. There's also communication styles as well. What do you think about that? So there's, yes, different types of people, there's different conversation styles, and people communicate in different ways. How do you think that, in your experience again, works in this sort of environment?
So you've got a flat screen in front of you. So yes, you've got eye contact, and yes, you can see if people are smiling or not. But actually, you have to exaggerate your expressions. You have to smile more. Like, I'm doing quite exaggerated stuff now because it doesn't come across very easily on a video, especially if you've got 4 or 5 people and you've got 4, 6 images in front of you. It's quite hard to spot when somebody is actually making a like, whoa, unless it's quite exaggerated. So you have to be conscious of exaggerating your expressions. And actually, to begin with, that's so tiring. And I think recognizing also that being on video is tiring. It's much harder to get your feelings, your views across, and you don't expect that. So you don't know why you feel tired. You don't know why videos are making you feel like phew at the end of it. And that is the reason, is because you have to be more of yourself.
Yeah, you're right. Again, I've felt that actually. That you've got to keep yourself engaged. Do you know? It's different because we're confronted by screens, every day, aren't we? So we're relaxing in front of screens. We work in front of screens. So my sort of part of me is like, I'm watching TV. Almost I'm watching TV. And it's a sort of different thing. And when you've got a group of people there, I'm sort of watching TV. And it's really interesting to move away from that and sort of appreciating the medium for what it is, rather than what you consider it could be, what you're used to. So that's really, really interesting. Okay, now we're going to close this session here, if that's okay, Susan. And we'll look at some of those tips. We'll dig into that a little bit more, and look in some, take into consideration some of that when we talk about, hardware, kit, when we talk about environments and stuff like that as well. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for our listeners for joining us as well. And we'll see you in the next session. Thank you.